What's going on, space friends? Welcome back to the Space Explored podcast. My name is Jared, and on this week, Seth and I sit down and talk about Space Command staying put in Colorado, SpaceX and NASA will be delaying Crew 7, NASA accidentally tilted Voyager, will they be able to fix it? And this week's main topic, the final launch of Northrop Grumman's Antares. All that coming up and more on episode 68.
Hey Jared, how's it going?
Hey, what's going on, man?
It's going pretty good. This is Northrop podcast. It's coming with episodes for you. We're going to breeze through our news topics for you right away. I took these all from the past couple of days. The last week I think was relatively slow, and all of a sudden everything picked up this beginning of this week. So let's get right into it.
Busy this week.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, well, last week was Oshkosh, and I went to Oshkosh. We can talk about that I think it'd be a whole show in itself about my week at Oshkosh, but on my day at.
I got to get up there I need to get up there.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Next year.
I think next year, I think we're planning on doing an RV. So,
ooh,
you can get away from your family and come up for a week.
Sounds fun.
All right, let's get into our first news item. It's with Space Command. After years of debate, review, and division, a decision has been made as to where the U.S. Space Command will be headquartered. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin brought the decision directly to President Biden, who chose to keep it in Colorado rather than moving it to Alabama. Republicans have cried this has been a political decision. However, White House states it is out of concern for operational readiness. So, ever since the Space Force was created, so Space Command is not new. Space Command is just the rebranding of Air Force Space Command, although it's been kind of reorganized a little bit into a more... Space Force has kind of taken a more leaner, more civilian-included type branch. It's not like the Air Force, which is very, very bloated. Over being, how old is it? 75 or so years? 80 years old or something? So, it's taken on this more modern approach. Air Force Space Command was headquartered in Colorado, which is actually a pretty big. There's three or four big defense kind of or aerospace and defense kind of sectored areas. There's Florida, of course, with there being the Kennedy Space Center and Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Then you have Colorado, where you have a lot of the more. You have ULA headquartered there, and you have a lot more, I think Northrop Grumman has a facility there and stuff like that. There's a lot of more, not necessarily, more engineering stuff there, and then you have Hawthorne, LA area. So you want, of course, your Space Command area around the talent of which you want to pull people from, which is, of course, Colorado is a really big one. And right at the end, right before President Trump left office, he pretty much made a decision right at the end, we're moving it to Alabama. Redstone Arsenal, which of course, there's a big aerospace, that's another kind of hub, but I don't know if it's top 3, but it's definitely a decent size aerospace hub, but more in the civilian rocket space versus defense sector.
Yep.
And since then, it's been a catastrophe. Biden came in and the Congress had a whole investigation into the decision because they believe that President Trump was doing it as a political favor. And then there was pretty much, it just came up to where President Biden just goes, all right, Air Force, you decide, Department of the Air Force, your decision, whatever you want to move it to, just move it. Then Ohio came in and was like, hey, we can have it here. Why not? Which was all just a weird addition. And pretty much it came down to the Secretary of the Air Force saying, let's move it, let's stick with the original plan, let's move it to Alabama. And the, what was it? It was I think it was the commander of Space Command. He was no, I always just leave it here because we have to be fully operational by April of next year, and we're not going to hit that if we have to move our command to Alabama. So Secretary of Defense pretty much couldn't get it down between those two and just took it to the president himself and just went can you just help us figure it out? And he just went, all right, stick it, keep it where it is, apparently. That's...
I have to imagine that everybody that's actually on base is probably excited to stay in Colorado.
They don't have to move to
Alabama. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. I spent a lot of time with Zach, of course, our founder down in Mississippi. Like that port side, kind of nice. I don't know about north side Alabama, but the port side's kind of nice.
Yeah.
But it's one of those classic kind of like, in my opinion, it was like, I think this is probably not exactly what went down, but it makes sense in my head that you're looking at. There's two people who disagreed with, who disagreed with each other, and you either had a high-ranking general, 4-star general, person you really want to keep happy because you want him to do a good job, and a civilian who is serving at the pleasure of the president in his position. Who can you piss off and be okay with? It's going to be the civilian. Right. You don't want to really piss off the generals. So, going with the general side, kind of makes sense and not irritating everyone. Also, now the Republicans are saying that this is against a political play because of Alabama Senator Tuberville, whatever his name is. He's holding up a bunch of like appointments for generals due to abortion. The Department of Defense is reimbursing anyone in the military who has to travel for an abortion. So like he doesn't like that, so he's going against that and holding up a bunch of appointments. So now the Republicans are going to do an investigation into whether or not this was political. It's like a complete mess for something that, having a command is nice, I guess, to have in your state. I'm sure it's going to be really, really important to have, but it's not really going to be like it is where it is. It's moved. Western Arsenal, and then of course that's where the Army. It's I think the Army base, but it's pretty much a space for. I mean, it's all space related. And then that whole area in Huntsville is doing pretty well. I mean, Blue Origin just moved in there, and they're producing engines, and that's a pretty nice spot for anyone in aerospace as well. It's always funny watching. Do you know Smart Every Day?
No.
You do. Oh, how do you lived your life without knowing Smart Every Day? He's from Huntsville area, and like he is hilarious. He has a bit in his video where he goes and speaks to a bunch of like rocket scientists from the area, and they all have that Alabama accent where you listen, you're like, it's got like no offense to anyone who lives in Alabama, but your accent does not bring intelligence as a factor into it.
Wow. Wow, hot take.
I'm not saying you're dumb. I'm just saying that you think, man, this guy really knows how to fix my car. Probably like this guy. If I have a flat tire, I want this guy to come fix my car.
Wow.
I want to build a rocket.
I'm sure they used to say that about all the NASA alum that came from Texas. They probably used to say the same thing.
Yeah, like I mean, the Saturn V rocket was built in Alabama. They can build a rocket. I'm sure everyone says that.
No,
my accent.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone says that my accent. Like, man, that guy only knows how to milk a cow, and that's pretty much it.
Curd cheese.
So yeah, that's pretty much the whole fiasco now with the Space Command. We're hopefully now. Well,
hot take: Space Command staying put, and Seth says that your accent determines your intelligence. That's coming up next.
No, I didn't say that. I'm just saying it doesn't. It doesn't. I hear. There's a lot.
Land the plane, brother. Land the plane.
Alabama, you guys are really smart people. Although, I have had someone really struggle to count my change when I was down there once. But that's a person, not a whole state. Anyways, moving forward.
Man. Roll Tide. Roll Tide.
Ever since I'm not going to bring that conversation. We don't need that. All right. SpaceX is going to have a new date for the Crew 7 launch. NASA has delayed the launch of SpaceX Crew 7 from the 17th to the 21st of August. After SpaceX launched a delayed Falcon Heavy last week, NASA stated the company requires more time to ready LC-39A and give the station time to perform operations with a Progress spacecraft from Russia. The backup date for the launch is Friday, August 25th, which is like 4 days after, I think. Yeah, that's 4 days after the original date. That's a rough backup date.
Yeah.
But, if you don't know, last week, Jared went to go see a Falcon Heavy launch. A bunch of other people went to go see Falcon Heavy launch, but I want to bring up that Jared went to go see the Falcon Heavy launch. Wait, you didn't go? I thought you did go.
No, so I went, I set remotes, I was there, ready to go, and then they called the countdown with like 3 seconds or 1 second or whatever, and they pushed it. Weather was great, but then they ended up pushing it to the next day. And then the next day, it rained terribly, so they pushed it again. So I went and reset remotes. Yeah, I reset my remotes, but I could not make it back to the launch, which I'm super bummed at because it actually was beautiful. And when it did finally go, it was actually a pretty spectacular launch. But I only got to see it from like 35 miles away instead of like 3 miles away. So pretty bummed. But
I mean, you still got to see it.
I did get to see it, yes, fair.
I guess technically, yeah, you still got to see it. You didn't get to go and see it, though. You just went and saw it.
Yes. But, I was not at the press site.
So that launch, we launched a Jupiter 3, the mission. It was a Hughes satellite network or Hughes satellite systems.
Yep.
One of those. It's not Hughes. It's not Hughes Net. Yeah, which I think is a different company than Hughes Satellite Systems or something. I don't know. But it's a satellite that does. It's a communication satellite that went to geospatial. Cygnus. Yep. Transfer orbit, direct GTO. I don't know. So that delayed a few days, which then it actually delayed 1 day for weather, which delayed the Crew 7 from like I think it was the 15th to the 17th or 14th to the 17th, and then the extra delays for weather then delayed it further to the 21st now. So I'm planning on going down for Crew 7.
Oh, nice.
I said it with a high-pitched voice because I don't know now. We'll see.
Yeah.
The delay kind of makes things a little interesting. But
as always.
As always. So yeah, we'll be interested to see how that goes. All right, next up. This one actually happened. This was like news like 2 weeks ago, and like this is an update to that news. I didn't even realize this happened. I must have missed that. After sending a command that accidentally tilted the spacecraft 2 degrees away from Earth, severing communications with it, NASA's Deep Space Network has received a heartbeat signal from the Voyager 2 spacecraft. While this doesn't carry any scientific data or provide any way to command it, it does show that the spacecraft is healthy and operating. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory plans to send commands to reorient it. However, they don't expect it to for this to work. However, in October, there's an automatic realignment is planned, but NASA doesn't want to wait that long and hold to fix it beforehand. I didn't even know this happened. To be honest with you,
I didn't hear anything about this either.
Yeah. When you that sucks to be the person who sent. Apparently, they just sent the wrong command. They sent a command to it, and it tilted it, and it was not the proper command. And when you're dealing with something as far away as Voyager 2, which is the second furthest spacecraft away, Voyager 1. Always interesting. Voyager 2 launched before Voyager 1. Voyager 1 had the more optimal launch date and alignment of the planet, so it caught up to Voyager 2 and surpassed it. Didn't really catch up to it, but it surpassed it in distance from the sun, and kind of passed by all the planets first. So, fun fact: Voyager 2 launched before Voyager 1, but Voyager 1's faster. So, just always I love fun facts, man. So it's good to hear that it's not lost. It's automatic alignment coming up in October.
Yeah.
If they want it. Now, I guess, I don't know, like Voyager is kind of those weird spacecraft that like you kind of just don't know its operation because you don't cover its operation because you only cover it when something like this happens and it's bad. Except I failed and didn't cover it because I didn't even know it happened. So whether or not that automatic alignment is like designed to do more than 2 degrees of alignment. I mean, obviously it can move 2 degrees because it did. So hopefully it can move that back and just be just fine. I'm assuming that's all the case. I'm assuming those type of realignments are routine since why they're pre-planned. Sure.
Yep.
So hopefully we don't any more issues, or we just, this alignment, this command they're going to send in different ways and multiple times just works and, it's realigned.
There's no
With
control.
Voyager, it's awesome. No.
Command
Yeah,
Z.
return the launch pad. Can we just return the launch pad?
Undo.
Kerbal Space Program players out there, return the launch pad and just redo the launch of Voyager 2. I would totally be down with that one if that was a possibility. But
yeah.
Anyways,
Sure.
that's those are our 3 quick stories today. We have our main topic.
Yeah, definitely not a lot going on.
It's busy and also all a bunch of just random stuff going on. So, those are our top stories. We'll go right into our main topic next after this break. All right, so our last topic today, and we are going to get it within 30 minutes because I have to physically be somewhere anywhere else, so it's going to be quick. We're not really too quick, but we're going to talk about this. Is yesterday evening, as of recording this, which we started recording, like, how is this already Wednesday? I don't know what happened to this week. I swear, I altered today. I'm like, oh, today's Tuesday. Like, whatever. Yeah, no,
that's a good thing. It's always worse when you think it's the day ahead, not the day behind. Anyway, go ahead.
True. That's fair. Yesterday evening, Northrop Grumman launched its final foreign-built Antares rocket, and it's the Antares 220 plus variant of their rocket. That's kind of the rocket they've been launching for the past couple of years. They went from the 100 to the 200 series like a long time ago because they had a failure with the engines, and then they replaced out the engines, and now they're launching this one. The reasoning for it being the final launch is not because they're retiring the rocket by choice. They're kind of forced to retire it due to the war in Ukraine with Russia, because they're getting supplies from both sides. They had engines coming from Russia, and then they had the booster section was being built by a company that also produced other defense items for Ukraine. And very early on into Russia's invasion, they destroyed the factory. So they ran out of boosters, and Russia, this was like one of the really early stories last year, was Rogozin was like, we're done supplying engines to the United States. Have fun flying on your, get in space. We're going to fly on your broomsticks. And then that was such a poorly timed quote, because literally like 2 days later, SpaceX launched, and they like quoted like, the sound of freedom on the American broomstick. Because Rogozin liked to just ignore SpaceX existing pretty much, so kind of like forgot that SpaceX launches rockets and they don't use any Russian engines.
And they look like broomsticks.
So
when they fly.
Yeah. So what happens next now? So now that we're done flying this kind of Russia series, what is Antares going to do? Because Northrop Grumman still has a contract with NASA. They still have the commercial resupply services contract that goes pretty much until 2030. They've extended it out to cover the retirement of the space station, and I think it has like 6 or 7 more flights, contracted for. But I think they're going to get more. That only goes to like 2028, I think. So I think they're going to get more onto that. And that was announced, what was it? A few months ago. Was it March maybe? Or was it February, I think, this year? Antares announced that they chose Firefly to build that first booster stage.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, I think we covered that in a previous episode.
Mm-hmm. So now that Antares is pretty much done, we're going to see, it's a kind of a weird, usually we see changes of rockets based off of the market, based off of the really just the market, or just like the longevity. Like ULA kind of was phasing out, Delta for a while, because Delta just was like kind of a finicky rocket, and so I think they were reducing the amount of flights on their medium-sized rocket that go on Atlas, because Atlas flies. When liquid hydrogen and oxygen, as we learned through the Artemis 1 launch, is a finicky little fuel to use. And so having less Deltas launching and more Atlases that use RP1 is a little bit better. But eventually now they're retiring it all for Vulcan to have a more cost-effective mission. It's interesting to see a company have to like forced to be retiring a rocket because they lost supply of their manufacturers, and now they're going to be flying Firefly, which it seems like this is a variant of their beta rocket. So if you know Firefly have flown their Alpha rocket twice now, I think. And I think they'll come up on the third launch this year. They're going to be pretty much you'll be building that first stage, and then like that they're going to throw that second stage just right on top of the first stage. Legos, man. Just keep stacking them. Stack second stages on second stages on second stages. It's Kerbal Space Program, man. It's easy. But you're going to be seeing now this like kind of new rocket, and it's between two companies that eventually this rocket is technically going to compete against each other because Antares never took off as a commercial launcher. It was only used for these CRS missions. There were some
pretty small, right?
It's still pretty capable. I mean, it gets a similar payload, at least when we're talking about CRS-1, so Dragon 1 versus
9.
Cygnus. Yeah, when you're, I wouldn't say it's exactly like the Falcon 9 capability. I don't know the exact numbers. I think it's less capable than the Falcon 9, but it could get a pretty serious payload into low Earth orbit. So like, there's nothing saying you can't remove Cygnus from that top and put up a different payload and launch an orbit. Like, you can do that. It just has to fit within its requirements. It just must be stupidly expensive. And not really... I mean, the entire system is built on, an old ICBM development. I think it was like Taurus or something like that was called, or something like that. That was built. It was an older rocket, more heritage rocket that they've upgraded. So it'll be interesting to see if this more commercially built first stage. I'm not saying it's a commercially built. I mean, it's straight up a defense. It's a contract through Northrop. I'm sure it's not cheap. Is going to change that and make Antares more competitive, and then maybe even boost its performance up. That'd be interesting to see. Because I want to see where Antares launches. Yeah. They only launch like once or twice a year.
Yeah.
Well, they did only launch like once or twice a year.
We had some people up there who were covering it, and from what I saw,
Derek was
really
there.
Cool. Yep.
Yeah, it was really awesome. There are always cool launches.
It looked like a really cool launch. One day I'll have to.
Those RD-181s are pretty awesome to photograph. Like the Atlases. Also, like, because there's only two of them and they're big, so like it's not like the Falcon 9, which like has 9 smaller
9 little
rocket engines. Yeah. And so you're trying to photograph it, and you kind of just they kind of all meld into one. Those RD-181s are like pretty slick, like to photograph, because their exhaust is more defined. So
I gotta be honest, it's always cool to see something else that's not a Falcon rocket.
Yeah, anything that's a Falcon. But here's the thing. So SpaceX, now that Antares is no longer launching, the Northrop Grumman is moving its Cygnus onto Falcon 9 launches, because that's the only other rocket that can actually get it to ISS. I think they flew one on an Atlas back in the day, but you can't buy an Atlas now. Those are all sold to Amazon, and Vulcan's not available, like a solid option to purchase for like a next year launch. Only SpaceX can. So SpaceX pretty much has a de facto monopoly now on getting anything.
Yeah.
At least if you want to fly on a Western rocket, the only one can get anything to the ISS at the moment, whether you're launching crew or you're launching cargo. And I kind of made a joke that I mentioned that in the article, that like, oh well, like, don't worry, Boeing's coming online soon in the next year. Boeing and Sierra Space are going to be coming online within the next year. For their crew and cargo respective options. But I'm like, I think that's deja vu. I'm pretty sure I wrote that same sentence like a year ago.
You're gonna get
Sierra Space and Boeing.
We're gonna be your own article.
We'll be coming online shortly. And because Sierra Space was supposed to be ready at the beginning of this year, but then Vulcan was delayed and Sierra Space got delayed. And then we all know Boeing's issues. We have an update coming next Monday, I think. We have 2 updates coming next week. We have an update Monday on the progress on launching the crude flight tests for Boeing, and then which is never I'm really hoping this is a good one, especially since they announced it so far out that maybe this is a good update and not a bad update, because they've all been bad updates. So seeing that press release come along was a little concerning, but also, well, it's not tomorrow, so that's good, right? Announced it like last minute.
We'll
and then
see.
Tuesday we have an update on Artemis 2 launching, so which should be pretty good and pretty awesome. Seeing that one launch.
Yep.
And seeing more. It's gonna be with the administrator and the crew of Artemis 2. So
nice.
So
nice.
yeah,
That's a good
big
update.
week coming up. So, but that's it for all our stories this week. Interesting little dynamic going on with Antares going down and
Yep.
Antares. Well, Antares went up. Antares retiring and
Sunset.
and
Sunsetting.
It's sunset. Yeah. It's the Antares 200 series was sunsetted.
Yeah.
By Russia. But anyways, that was all it for this
Another
week.
hot take.
You can join the Discord and hang out with me and stuff like that. Jared, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram and Threads at Hyperlight. HYPRLYTE.
He's officially off Twitter. Not even promoted anymore.
Well, everybody's off Twitter. It's X, bro.
I mean, so yeah, we're not allowed on Twitter around X. Well, I almost sent a bunch of... There was a part of me that was like, what if I said all... Because every single space company still has Twitter listed as one of their social media.
Right.
I'm gonna go switch to X.
Yeah.
That'd be funny. Anyways, you can listen to us at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and of course at spaceexplored.com. And you can follow along with our news there as well, and we'll see you guys all next week.
See ya.